Okay, I'm shooting this on what some people call Easter and some people call Passover and some people call the weekend. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on the big debate of atheism versus religion and whether religion's bad for society or whether we should just nix the whole thing and go for nothing and validate the null hypothesis. Basically the argument being that religion has led to many forms of corruption and societal breakdown and conflict, and if we all started from a tabula rasa, blank slate, realizing that there's not really any contingency, everything would be better. And I'm not going to weigh in on that. I do think there's some problems when we say atheism versus religion, because that's really two separate strata. Atheism is kind of an absolute, encompassing all of nothing, and religion's really kind of like the next strata down. I think it should probably be atheist versus theist. The atheist being the engineering premise versus theism, which would be the engineering premise that would then lead to the building of the engine, as it were, that would be religion. Not atheism versus religion. Religion's a construct that arises out of a theological or ontological belief system. So I would rather say that I'm responding to the debate of atheism versus theism. And well, basically the impacts of that. So we're gonna talk about this with these two bunnies. The bunny to my left we'll call the atheist bunny, and the bunny to my right will be the theist bunny. And both of these bunnies are all of these bunnies that I've been watching on all of these channels and websites and podcasts. All these bunnies, what these bunnies have in common is that they're both highly educated. The atheist bunny are generally super intelligent, super intellectual, very well read. Most, if not all of them, are published and have their own books. Most, if not all of them, have been to highly accredited postgraduate programs in some of the #1 colleges in the world. The theist bunnies, renowned in whatever their subcategory of theism is, whatever their religion is, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, considered to be philosophers and scholars within their own realm, very well read, very well educated. Also, many of them on a doctoral level, many of them coming from some of the best theological schools in the world, and many of them coming from some of the best colleges in the world, even beyond the theological schools. So as far as the bunnies go, they're going to say they're both bunnies. These are definitely both bunnies, and they're both representative. The theist and the atheist bunny are the spear point representative of whatever their respective subgroup is. This atheist bunny is an expert witness for atheism, we'll say, and this theist bunny is an expert witness for theism. Now Now, the atheist bunny, he tends to argue science. He or she tends to argue science. This atheist bunny argues based on Darwinistic principles, science, the validation of the null hypothesis, that existence doesn't occur until you prove existence occurs of a contingency. And I think that's important to say, of a contingency. We have to prove that a contingency exists in order to prove God. And the atheist bunny uses a lot of external data from all different domains to argue his point. The theist bunny is a little bit limited, even though he's just as educated, but he's forced to pull from whatever his domain of theism is. If he's a Christian theist, he has to basically argue the principles based on Christian principles, or if he's a Jewish theist, he has to argue on the principles of Judaism, Islam, etc. So he has to stay within a certain box, which makes him a little smaller in comparison. He's a little more limited because he can only pull from his one doctrine, versus the atheist bunny, who can basically pull from just about anything. The atheist bunny can even pull from the different religions and show the silliness in many cases, how silly some of the precepts that these theists have. The theist bunny pulling from whatever his religious doctrine is, or whatever his theological argument is, to the point of bordering on mythology, if not fantasy. The theist bunny can even pull from that and even comment on something like the Easter bunny, and how the Easter bunny gets incorporated into this bunny's theism, and what does that have anything to do with his theism? The theism going back to some ancient premises that usually become polytheistic, mythological, dawn of man, when we used to worship the elements, and convoluted. And the atheist bunny is very good at pointing out how all these myths get woven together into some kind of bastardized concept that has no real grounding. So the atheist bunny looks way bigger by comparison in his external arguments to the theist bunny. So what I wanted to do today was just maybe do my own little pseudo experiment, and just wanted to take these two bunnies, this atheist bunny who has a lot of really big arguments, to this little theist bunny. This little theist bunny's limited in his argument. He has to focus on just one line of thought. He can pull from other areas, but he has to stay on his one line of thought. So I figured what I'd do was, just for fun, is, since we're talking about these external concepts, I figured, like, we'll take these two bunnies and I'm going to apply external pressure to both these bunnies. Now, the sad thing is that this theist bunny, this poor guy, he's limited again. I'm going to try to be neutral. I'm going to try to apply an equal amount of pressure to both these bunnies. Now, the problem is I'm right-handed. So even though I'm going to try to apply equal pressure to both these bunnies, this poor theist bunny is probably going to get a little bit more pressure no matter what I do, because my dominant hand is my right hand. So I'm just going to squeeze these guys. Oh wow. The atheist bunny's hollow inside. Have a nice weekend.